Trying to get in.
There we go. All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for jumping in on the Sea+Summit podcast. Today we have Latrice Nothaker with us, and we are starting a new series on self-care. This is one of those subjects that a lot of people ignore in business, and a lot of professional driven people, it kind of takes a back seat. But from our leadership perspective, if you're going to be a good leader, you first have to lead yourself well. You have to take care of yourself well, or else you actually don't have anything to give. It's like that old, it's like what they tell you on an airplane. If there's something wrong and the oxygen masks come down, you have to first put the mask on yourself before you put it on any of your loved ones and anybody else around you. Because if you don't take care of yourself first, you actually don't have anything to give other people around you. So today, Latrice is going to be sharing a little bit about her journey and her story about self-care, how she learned to speak the language, learn to hear the language of herself and how to respond to it so that she could in turn be healthy, and I'm sure it's helped her relationships, her professional life, every area of life, when you learn to actually begin taking care of yourself first. And it's kind of a foreign concept to some of us, but hopefully you'll hear what we have to say. So go ahead, Latrice, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your story and about what you're here to talk about.
For sure. Yes, I am Latrice Nothaker, and I really love talking about self-care because I don't think I would be able to do 90% of what I'm doing. Most of what I'm doing in business, in my family, and even ministry related, it's because I know how to replenish. I know how to take good care of myself, but I really learned the hard way. So I currently have a bookkeeping business, and I have a creative outlet where I sell candles. I make and sell candles and bath bombs and all of that, self-care journals and all of that. But I also have one foster son, 2 stepsons. I am married, and my life is pretty busy. I handle a lot. Oh, I also have a nonprofit, and I also work in the city of Veolia on the board where we're getting ready to start a chamber of commerce. So I'm doing a lot, and there's probably some things I'm missing in that list of just catching up with people and loving and serving your family well. It takes time, and I would not be able to do it without self-care. But I didn't start as this kind of high capacity person that could really execute and get things done and have businesses and all of that. I actually came through a time where I went through a mental health crisis about 15 years ago. I couldn't execute one single start to finish command because I was living with some people that were telling me how to think, who I was, and what to do. They were very verbally abusive, and I call it a mini cult. And time and grace has not really tempered my language about that experience. It was very controlling, and I had all of the markings of a cult, just a high-powered leader, and breaking down natural attachments with your family, controlling all of our money and controlling who we talk to. So yeah, it was a mini cult. I had a pretty intense breakdown. I was physically and emotionally pretty much destroyed, and I never thought I would recover. But it was all because I did not know how to take care of myself. And we say the word self-care, but Stephen, you and I talked about this common theme of trust, trusting yourself when you have to make those trigger hair decisions. I think I'm saying that phrase right. When you have to make those split-second decisions, or when you have to really determine where your life is going, you want to be able to trust your instincts. You want to be able to trust that you're going to be able to take care of yourself and the people around you. And I was not in that state of mind at all. I had just destroyed my my own ability to trust that I was going to make a good decision for myself.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. But I kind of feel like I'm grateful that I went through that, because I can see similar things right now with other folks. These are really stressful times that we're living in, and we're being told who we are and what to think by, social media influencers. Sorry if that's what you consider yourself to be, Stephen, but we are it's very financial. What's that?
Definitely not.
Okay, good. Well, for anyone that's a social media influencer, be sure to tell people to take care of themselves. But we're being told how to think, who we are, how to feel, who to hate, who to talk to, who to, cancel. And it's causing us to get kind of disconnected from ourselves and from who we are. And I feel like there are some similarities with what I went through. And that's why I love to have conversations about self-care. Just thinking about this conversation, I made better choices. Just knowing that I was going to have this interview, I've made better choices this week to take care of Latrice. That's
awesome.
Me, in case people forgot.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities in like what you're saying, the world around us right now. But also everyone has probably some sort of unhealthy relationship or something like everyone's natural reaction when things go crazy is to actually subconsciously, whether they realize it or not, is to start trying to control the world around them. And, I was very much, that was my default setting. If I didn't feel in control of the world around me, then I started trying to enforce control, and that was, some people, they clam up and they just, get extremely passive. I got more aggressive in the way that I dealt with things. And it was a long time before I realized, like, part of self-care was realizing I actually could trust myself. I could actually put the right things in place, not have to control anything, but also just kind of trust myself in that I can make it through certain situations and certain relationships without having to completely be in control. And but yeah, like one of the things we were talking about earlier is you kind of learn to listen.
I'm sorry, I have to interject.
Please.
You are goals. Like, Stephen, you are goals, because I'm still very much, my default is still like, oh, things are getting out of control. Well, I'm gonna, I'll do the budget, I'll exercise, my personality. So I think we should stop and pat yourself on the back, because I am not there yet, but I'm getting there.
Heard that men compartmentalize really easy. And the way I see it, I'm a visual person. I see that I have a plate. And at the beginning of the day, I decide I get to choose what's going to be on my plate. And I decide what's not going to be on my plate. And those things that should not be on my plate, because I don't necessarily have the capacity, the energy, emotionally, mentally, physically to do, I have no problem either pushing it off to tomorrow's plate if it's something I'm still going to have to deal with, or pushing it off my plate completely, especially those things that I cannot control. We a little bit about the industry we're in, and we use that term fire starters all the time. And if you're a business owner or a high capacity professional, you understand what it's like to just constantly be putting out fires. And one of the most freeing things you can do isn't necessarily to be able to control what's on your plate, but it's really to control what you don't allow to be on your plate. And I just refuse to feel a certain way about certain things because it's not on my plate, and I can shut it off.
Yeah. And I without derailing you, I'd love for you to touch on something we mentioned earlier in the phone call of like morning routine. Is it too early for that?
No.
I think that you are on to something, and I'd love to talk about that for a second.
Sure. So I have a morning routine. A lot of you guys have heard me talk about it before. And this is really one of the ways that I take care of myself. I'm preparing for the day. I'm preparing if I'm going to pour out throughout the day. If you're a leader, you're going to pour out no matter what. If you people rely on you, that means that you are spending energy, whether it's mental or physical or emotional energy or decision fatigue. That's a real thing when you just have to make a million decisions in a day. And I know that I have to do a certain amount, I have to perform in a certain way every day. So, first thing I do, it actually starts the night before, and I make sure that I know exactly what time I'm waking up in the morning, and it's a routine for me, so it's pretty regular. But I make sure that I go to bed at the correct time. If I don't get enough sleep, I know that's going to affect the next 3 days. It doesn't just affect one day. So I'm constantly thinking ahead, and really, I understand that because I've taken account of, hey man, I'm really tired today. Why am I tired? And I just constantly ask myself, why? And I've been able to put it into a routine that meets my personal needs. So I know that I'm pouring out constantly and people are around me are growing. And if I want to continue leading these people who are growing at a rapid rate, then I have to learn at a rapid rate. We have a key characteristic in our business, which is it's the first thing, it's the most important thing. And it's poor English, but this is the way we say it all the time. Always be learning, always. So like, there's no, if, there's my favorite quote, and we talk about it a lot, and you'll see it a lot on our posts. I'm probably going to butcher it, but basically it says learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully prepared for a world that no longer exists. And so for us to constantly be changing with the shifting markets, to constantly
Love that.
be ahead of the game, to be relevant to a younger generation, we have to learn, we have to stay relevant. We also I want to challenge myself and grow so that my children can inherit the ground that I've covered in my life. So my morning routine is the most important thing that I do. I don't let anything derail it. I know that my kids aren't going to be up at that time. I spend time reading. I spend time praying. I spend time planning out my day. If I cannot do that, I write out everything on my checklist, and it changes drastically throughout the day. And sometimes I have to adjust, but I'm taking account of what my capacity is and where I'm going to spend my energy for that day.
That is just awesome. That's really amazing. You should probably write a book. You have a way of taking things and putting them in a succinct kind of process and communicating it really directly. That is really cool. And I kind of want to go back to what we talked about a little earlier, because I was more talking about the big picture of, we're all stressed out. No one knows who they are, and you really brought it down to this is what I do today, which I think is amazing. But we mentioned earlier, self-care is a muscle that you have to exercise. So some folks just need to start, at some more basic kind of things, which you can do self-care watching this video by breathing deeply and, and going on a walk while you're listening to it. So I mentioned earlier that it's as if we're fractured versions of ourselves, because it's very profitable for industry, for, businesses to tell us who we are, what we want, what we buy, where we go, who we love, who we hate. It's incredibly profitable to control people in that way, and without getting weird about it. That's why they're called influencers, because they're influencing you. but you want to balance that out. You want to be careful that you're not being that you're not overextending yourself, that you're not operating outside of the boundaries that keep you healthy and comfortable. So we had two words: trust and boundaries. And one of the things I wrote down was like, it's like we're connected online to other people or to influencers or social media, and we fractured ourselves from the one who knows us best, ourselves. So how can self-care actually help me get to know me better, get to know what works best for me, what's going to cause me to be the best version of myself? Stephen, you just mentioned your routine, which, you know, is which is amazing, which is really, really good. I think that there are just some simple things that we can do. I hate to throw things out, but like drinking water, eating a donut, eating a salad. Like, what are some things that you feel like, you know, I just kind of want some comfort food. I kind of just want to play video games right now. We'll play the video games. You're not a couch potato. Like, that's not who you are. It's just something that you feel like I just kind of need to escape for a minute. And then that's actually going to replenish me to clean out the garage. So I just kind of want to speak to that, like give people the liberty to start where they are and to start listening to kind of some of those internal cues that you feel, instead of shoving down your opinion, your thoughts, your volition, your autonomy, and your voice. My case is the extreme of that. I completely shut down all of those things, and it cost me dearly in time, about $30,000 in debt, verbal abuse, lots of shame, self-doubt, and it took a long time to recover. So I was trying to be succinct and bring it down to some bullet points. I don't know if I succeeded at that, but I'm just going to read from my list.
Sure.
How can self-care help me get to know me better? Because you're exercising a muscle. How can self-care help me get to know me better? I'm exercising the muscle of listening to myself, listening to my desires, listening to there's you know, your physical desires, but there's also your emotional desires and your goals that you have for yourself. It's not pitting those two things against themselves, of saying, I really want to veg out right now, but I also really want, you know, to exercise. I really want to be healthy. Well, sometimes you veg out and sometimes you exercise, but you don't beat yourself up and you know, create an identity for yourself of saying, oh, I didn't exercise, I am a couch potato. That's just not good self-care. You would never tell your best friend that. If I called my best friend and said, oh, I was supposed to exercise and I vegged out, she would not say, you're a couch potato. But yet sometimes we allow, you know, those thoughts to come through our own minds. Just let's not pigeonhole ourselves into being one or the other. Just listen, you know, I feel like exercising, I'm going to exercise, or I'm going to create a routine. That's a part of my self-care, is I'm going to create a routine. I'm going to stick to it the best I can. And when I don't, I'm going to try again tomorrow. So that's how I feel it can help us strengthen our decision-making capabilities and get to know ourselves better. Get to trust our own thought process and trust that we know how to make good decisions. So what actually is self-care and what isn't self-care? I mentioned earlier, I think it is a balancing act. I think that I use the donut salad culinary depiction and the video game clean out the garage depiction. It's not that I'm just one or the other. It's that I'm exercising the muscle and learning to be mature to understand that I need to do both of those things sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, within reason, of course. If you're diabetic, don't eat a dozen donuts. Like, that's not self-care. But you know, it's learning to. But I mean, you could eat one. But anyway, it's a balancing act. It's a balancing act. because it is no longer self-care if you are getting self-indulgent, because the goal of self-care is service to others. So if my exercising to the extreme and eating healthy is causing all my friends to hate my guts because I'm becoming so full of myself and so prideful, it's no longer really serving other people very well. And I probably need to balance that out. If my vegging out on video games is destroying everything in my family, it's destroying my relationships, it's becoming an escapism and a coping mechanism, and I'm actually running away from something else, then it's no longer serving you. It's no longer self-care. It is self-destructive. But again, if you're balancing out these things, then you can escape the extreme, the pit holes on both sides. Self-care it's not self-indulgent, as we mentioned earlier. It's not selfish. It is the most selfless thing you can possibly do, to get up early, get that list together, find out what you can and cannot handle, because you don't want to end up destroying yourself, and someone else has to take care of you because you refused to relax. It's kind of simple. And it is not sabotaging. Sorry, I don't say that word very often. I usually read it, so it's weird to say it, but you're not sabotaging yourself. I can't even say it now. You are not destroying yourself. In trying to take care of yourself, you're not sabotaging your dreams or your future. You're actually preparing for it the best you can. And again, the end goal of self-care is service to others. Otherwise, it can become self-indulgent, and it can become coping mechanisms. So
that's really good. I love that you bring it all back and you say, hey, the point of it all isn't actually, the goal isn't a selfish thing. It's actually so that you can be more selfless in your life. You're doing it unto a bigger reason, a better person, to be a better person, to be of more service to those around you. And I can say that money, goals, all that stuff, it's not going to get me out of bed at 4 a.m. But what will, we have this thing we call vision alignment. Anyone that we hire, I want to know what really matters to them. It's never money. It's never their business. It always comes down to the people they care about. And when we find out what they really care about and what they really want to do for those people, with those people, now we can connect it to a process. Now we can connect it to coming to work and making money, because it serves a bigger goal. When I get up in the morning, or when when I'm tired and I don't want to, it's not easy. I think about my kids' future. I think about my wife. I'm literally thinking about my children's children, and that how this tiny little baby step of getting up today affects people maybe 100 years from now. And that, I'm not saying everyone has to have sight that far out, but that's actually what wakes me up in the morning. Rather, I wouldn't get up for money. I wouldn't get up just for my job, anything like that. So I really love that it's really about serving other people. I wanted to ask you a question, because we're talking about knowing ourselves and trusting ourselves. We're also talking about how everything's kind of fighting to have an influence and a voice, and that it's also a muscle. That voice inside, listening to that voice, is a muscle that has to be exercised. Nobody comes into the gym being able to lift, 500 pounds. You have to work your way up to it over time. So with everything competing for that voice inside your head, how important is a healthy thought life and healthy self-talk in learning about yourself and speaking, beginning to actually make decisions based off of your needs, since you know yourself the best?
That's a good question. So in my own words, how important is healthy self-talk in kind of manifesting healthy actions?
Yeah,
Is that
that's more
it's incredibly important. Yeah, it's incredibly important. And I guess I can talk a little bit more about my story. That was the reason why I joined that group in the first place, is because I was so fearful that I was not enough. And to this day, I still have a list of affirmations that I speak over myself on a regular basis, because I know what it's like, and I know the danger of losing my autonomy and my identity and my volition and my money. And the worst thing is I lost my laugh. Like, I started to morph into the same person as these leaders. And I hate that for, 10, 11 years, I didn't laugh the same, which sounds kind of silly, but it's an endearing thing to me. And anyway, so that's what caused me to get into that controlling situation to begin with, is I did not have a healthy sense of who I was. How can you trust someone if you don't even really have a good sense of your identity? How can you trust yourself? How can you trust that you can make great decisions if you don't think you're that great? It's like, it's just so foundational to your actions. And I just, implemented some very simple things. The whole, what you do for 21 days kind of changes who you are. I took all of that very seriously, because again, my extreme story, which I'm so grateful for now, lets me see the end result of these self-destructive thought processes and patterns. So, whereas I honestly, maybe it's my personality, I would run away from the concept of self-care. I'm like, it just sounds funny to me. It's hard for me to even keep saying, trust yourself, listen to yourself. That's hard for me to say, even now. But I have the battle scars. Like, I've got the wounds still from when I didn't. So I can, with a little more confidence and gusto, say, this is a good idea. I would add, this is more, I guess, a professional would probably be cringing right now with this: trust yourself, listen to yourself, do what you want to do. I would add, it's not in a vacuum. Like, yeah. This isn't just, I'm not a single woman. When I was single, I practiced self-care as just, that's your life. You just take care of yourself. I'm not to say that singles don't need to implement these things intentionally, but it's just you. So, but when you do have a family, when you do have children, your emotions can get so connected that you start making irrational decisions that seem like the right thing to do, and that people tell you is the right thing to do. But you end up destroying yourself, which actually ends up causing really bad relationships within your family and within your home. I don't remember how I got on that tangent. I was talking about having a good sense of identity and how that helps you have better behavior, more healthy behavior and make healthier decisions. And I mentioned I've got the battle scar. Oh, I was saying, I would tend to run away from the word self-care and self-talk, but I don't now, because like I said, been there, done that, and don't ever want to go there again. I want to keep as many people as possible away from situations like I was in.
Yeah, I think the goal, as long as you understand that the goal is actually service. Again, it's really hard if you're thinking about serving other people and it's unto a larger purpose. If you're, identity is a huge part of it. Like what you're saying, if you don't know who you are, then you can't listen to we were all created with a purpose and a drive to fulfill something here, on this earth. And being connected to yourself is actually also being connected to that purpose and how you serve others and around you and those that you care about. And I think it would be really difficult if you're actually caring about the other people around you to do this in a selfish way. But it's not always, sometimes self-care isn't what we would look at as self-serving. It is in the long run, but sometimes self-care is eating the salad and not the donut.
My two favorite food groups.
But also sometimes mentally, we're multifaceted beings, and sometimes my body might be in good shape by the decisions I'm making, but my heart is breaking for that donut. So, and I'm a very extreme. When I do a diet, there's no cheating, no anything, and I'm learning that it's way easier to sustain something when you try and bring in that balance and understand that I might be serving my body, but I'm actually neglecting my soul. And I love food. I love to enjoy food. I always have. And I really connect with other people over food. And sometimes from doing a diet over and over and over again, I realize that I'm actually missing that connection, with other people. And that's that balancing act you're talking about. It's like, but it's not, now I'm going on a tangent about food because I'm in the middle of
It's almost lunchtime.
yeah, but no, I really appreciate your perspective on this, what you're bringing to the table, and I appreciate you sharing your story because I think that a lot of people can relate to it. As we're wrapping this up a little bit, can you give us, we talked about learning to listen. We talked about learning to trust yourself. It's a muscle. It's a language. It's got to be worked out. It's something that's got to be learned. It doesn't happen overnight. There's many things fighting for that voice in your head, and then the importance of self-talk and those affirmations that you speak over yourself, and then also the balancing act of not just taking care of you might be taking care of your body on this side, you might be taking care of your mind over here, but it's all unto service of other people. Can you tell just maybe 2 or 3 practical things that we can do today? Let's say they don't speak any of the language. Let's say they're where you were at 15 years ago. What is maybe 2 or 3 practical things that you would like to share with them today?
What a perfect segue for me to talk about my gratitude journal.
Awesome.
Blinking lights. Here's the link. No, the number, actually, I will talk about gratitude last because I think that is so important that I really want to kind of give it, I want to give it the floor. I want to give it the conclusion. But I want to give a little brief example because I know that you're mostly talking to men, but there will probably be some women that are going to be listening, watching this, and this may help them. Maybe. I don't know. It helps me.
Sure.
Hire a cleaning person to clean your house. This is how this has been incredible self-care for me. And this will wrap all of that up.
I'm taking some notes.
I would clean my house and I would foment on the inside. Who did this for the 1,000th time today? Oh my gosh, I can't believe if we get bugs, I'm going to lose my mind. The whole time I'm cleaning the house, this is what's going through my mind. So if anyone happens to be in my near vicinity, they're going to get eyes. They're going to get attitude. There's going to be emotions erupting. I'm going to be even more upset. And my house is not going to be as clean as it needs to be because I can't even be around the humans that are messing up my house. This went on for a couple of months and it gets so severe. What's that?
We need a follow-up conversation with you and my act over this.
This got so severe. That I was just like, no, I live with 4 guys. So, and I was raised around all, mostly females, and really clean dudes. So this was a shock to me to live, So anyway, there's that thought process that's going on. Now, if I were to just trust my thoughts and follow my thoughts, I would probably start fighting. But instead, so it's the balancing act. So I'm feeling these feelings, I'm having these thoughts. Instead of obeying them, I'm listening to them. And I'm saying, this activity is destroying my mental health.
Wow.
But I have to clean my house because no one else is. The house needs to be clean. That's the end game. So instead of then letting my self-critic destroy me, it's just cleaning the house. You don't have a full-time job, so why can't you just clean the house? Oh, you're getting so mad at your family. You don't really love your family, and then just, so now I'm angry at them and I'm angry at me and my house is dirty. This is a recipe for destruction. And it's a funny example, but it's so real. People literally get divorced over this.
Yeah.
Hire a cleaning person to clean your house and be free. It's okay to be angry that your house is dirty. Find a solution. Either you can clean it, you can deal with it being dirty, or you can hire someone. That is self-care. Because when I walk in my house after it's been cleaned, I don't feel like yelling at anybody. I feel happy. I don't feel like I can't live here. I have to figure out another place to live because it's too messy. I don't think those thoughts. I have a great time with my family.
I really love that example, actually. It's one of those things that through knowing yourself, you understood that this is something that frustrated you. This is something, it comes back to, like, I compartmentalize and I put things, this is what's on my plate. You said this thing is not healthy being on my plate. Yeah. And then you properly delegated it to somebody else who it will not bother them in the same way. And you took account of your capacity. And I really love that example. And it may not be cleaning, for me, I hate doing dishes. I guess it's probably not the same thing. It's definitely not being a mother and cleaning your house, but my wife is gonna really love you for saying that. She's been talking to me about doing it. And until this context, I just said, no, that's silly. We're going to clean up our own messes. And now under this context, I don't think I'm going to be able to get away. So if you got a good cleaning person, go ahead and send them my way. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead. What's another great takeaway?
The amount of money that we pay our cleaning person is significantly cheaper than a divorce attorney. I mean,
hey, being real, call what it is.
We can edit that part out.
Hey, these guys need to hear it.
I'm just saying, do you like to be married?
Do not clean. Okay, so that's perfect.
Let's move on. The second, final, single most important thing I could go on and on for days about this, is a gratitude journal. Because we're talking about thoughts, and if you live in your head too much, you will go to one extreme or the other, particularly if you live alone. But what we're doing is that we're changing our thought process by exercising gratitude.
That's great.
I have had a gratitude journal ever since I left that very controlling group that I was a part of. And it has been one of the single most important exercises to better my mental health. I could not recommend it enough. It changes your brain. You actually cannot. So the whole, I'm cleaning the house and I'm fomenting and the emotions are starting to just mount on the inside. I could not take that thought process and say, I'm so thankful that there are these wonderful humans in my house. Some people don't have sons and a husband or a house to clean. Like, I feel different just remembering that the fomenting angry thoughts and then saying, man, thank you for my house. I'm so thankful for my house, and I'm so thankful for my kids and for my husband. I'm so thankful that we have food that we can make messes with. Uh, my whole, even just giving that example, I feel differently on the inside. And that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about like a hedonism where you're just like, ooh, whatever I feel like doing, that's what I'm going to do because this is self-care. No, because again, that's operating in a vacuum.
Yeah,
It's the end goal is serving other people. So how is this going to serve me so that I can serve other people well? So again, the gratitude journal changes that whole emotional and mental process and that whole pathway. It releases different what do you call them? There's a fancy word for it. Neurochemical
pathway.
pathways, all of that. I'm sure there's going to be a professional that's cringing like, ugh, but it makes you happier. I'll put it that way. Um, you cannot think toxic thoughts and thoughts of gratitude at the same time. I mean, maybe you can. I personally can't, and I don't think our brains are wired that way. So that would be my if you do one thing today, buy a donut, buy a salad, and start a gratitude. If you do one thing, do these three things. And
Yeah,
I'm a bookkeeper, but yeah, if there's one takeaway, it would be take good care of yourself, and every day, write down three things that you're very grateful for. You'll actually, I've had this journal since 2008, so I go back to it, and it makes you feel even happier to see your progress and how far you've come. And it's pretty amazing tool.
that's really good. I love that. And then it really, as someone who's done something similar to that, not consistently, but I can tell you anytime I find those old things, no matter how I'm feeling, if I'm going through a hard time, when you go back and you just think about the good things, and that's all that you write down, because you're fighting, you're going through that battle. Some days it's hard to find something that's 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 good. But if you kind of push through, you actually have that now. It's like an orchard that you cultivate and you grow, and you can go and take the fruit off the
Like
tree.
that analogy.
I stole it from someone else. So
Oh, okay. Well, I might steal it and create a gratitude journal that has like a depiction of an orchard on it. And then I'll just word it differently and be like, yep,
there you
signed Bar Collective.
go. Right on. But yeah, no, you go in there and you can take from that orchard at any time when you need it. And it's that's really good, and it's really helpful in that self-talk. And then it's like it's a weapon to fight off the negative stuff uh, when you're going through a tough time. Well, Latrice, I really appreciate you sharing your story, being
Fun.
vulnerable. And we're gonna go ahead. We'll get a link and everything to your gratitude notebooks. We're also gonna get a link to your candles, pretty much anything you want us to have a link to, connect to you.
Yeah, it's almost candle season, folks. Hey, that's self-care.
There you go. Yeah. Uh, so, so we're gonna go. We'll go ahead and get links to everything, and we'll definitely want to connect more people to you. So I really appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thank you. So much fun.
Thank you, Latrice.